All right. So we'll see if Andrea's gotten any rest. So
Hey, John.
have you gotten any rest?
Just a little bit. I think everyone here at the city just collapsed last week, and but now we're back at it. So,
City
uh,
manager of the city of Decatur, who's probably about 6 or 7 minutes away from these particular studios here in the part of the SDHness. How many folks came by Watch Fest? Did you have the final math?
we do. We have had at least 170,000 visitors to the city of Decatur over the event, which is extraordinary for our small city.
When you were doing all of the projections, what were you thinking was going to? Did you have a number in mind when you started?
I don't know that we had a solid number in mind. I mean, I would say this is pretty close to where we were anticipating on average, maybe between 3 and 5,000 people per day. And that's pretty much where it landed, around 5,000 on average. But we had peak days of close to 11,000 people on the Decatur Square.
How many meetings did you guys have in the city to get everything locked in place? That's like for the infrastructure and make sure that all of that's all right, that everything is fine, and then you don't know what you need to fix until things start going. It's like you can do all the planning in the world, and then that's when things start going, that's when you have to adjust. I mean, how close were you to figuring out everything, and how much adjusting did you have to do on the fly?
I'll say, and I spent a lot of time during the event telling people, I said, this is what you can pull off when you put in the planning on the front end. And I think that's why it felt so good during the event. We had a high level of confidence every day that we were executing because we literally put in at least 2 years of planning for this event. And we had the right team. And it was just beautiful when you have the right people at the table to put on an event like this.
How many folks are we talking about here that were in all of these multiple Zoom calls with all of the pop-up windows and everybody with their ID plates? How many do you know you remember how many Zoom meetings you had and how many folks were in all these things to make sure that everything was the way it was supposed to be?
I mean, I'm sure we had 75 to 100 meetings. I mean, easily, because we had our internal staff team. Because really, I mean, give kudos to the City of Decatur employees who made this happen. And that's Public Works, as fire, as police, and many, many others. But then we also had a whole steering committee made up of community volunteers. And they met on a monthly basis. I mean, they came over here to City Hall at 8 a.m. many months to work through the details. So we couldn't have done it without the volunteers as well.
And that's the one thing that we all look at when we look at an event. I mentioned this about live television too. It's like, if anybody has a dog and the dog likes to go out and chase after a stick when you throw it in the water, then the dog goes out, swims out, gets the stick, and starts coming back to shore. What you see above the water line is the dog with the stick in its mouth, just kind of huffing and puffing, and everything's fine. That's what everybody saw when they were going there to Watch Fest. It's like they saw everything with the dog above the water line. Yeah, everything's fine with the dog. But what they don't see is what's going on below the water line, where the dog's going like this, trying to make sure that he gets back to shore with the stick in his mouth. And that's why I was asking about, all of the below the water line stuff and all the different departments that are having to come together to make this jigsaw puzzle fit.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what people didn't see was, when that USA match was over, people left and they went home. You didn't see what was left behind, like just the mounds of trash that were left behind. Well, who comes in, the city staff come in, clean that up. So when you come back out the next day as a visitor, the square was pristine again. But again, that's what we're here for. I mean, we were here so people could just come, enjoy themselves, have a good time, and not have to worry about the details.
Have you, after collapsing and coming back, have you guys had a bit of a post-mortem yourselves about what the city might have learned in a situation like this?
So that is to be determined. But that's an important part of any event is, coming back together and talking about, what went well, what we could have done better. But all in all, I think we're going to spend a lot of time talking about just how well this was executed.
And and like I said, everybody that I talk to that is from this neck of the woods that would go into Watch Fest and see what's going on there. Any ideas on economic impact that was had into the city, projections or anything like that, or is that still being mathed out?
And that's still in the works, and I think it's still going to be an estimate. On the front end, we worked with Dr. Thomas Smith, a professor at Emory, an economist, and he put together an economic impact report, and it estimated an impact on the city of around between 62 million to I think 140 million. There was a range. And so we'll go back and look at how those estimates compare to what we experienced. But I suspect we're going to be somewhere right there in the middle in terms of the economic impact, specifically to the businesses, mostly right there that are on the square.
Did they give you any of the businesses give you feedback after everything was over, or is that still everybody's still trying to recover and it's like, oh yeah, I need to talk to the city and tell them about my experience?
Yeah, I mean, anecdotally, we have spoken with some of the business owners up on the square. One of the pubs in particular said is the best business that they've had in almost. I mean, they've been around for almost 3 decades. It's the best business that they've ever had, and that's consistent with what we were hearing from the pubs and restaurants. Is the best business since they first opened their doors, which we also felt like was much needed because the square had been under renovation. It had been a construction zone for a year prior. You may recall that we literally, the square, we had the ribbon cutting about 1 week before the World Cup started. And it's no fun for businesses to live through a construction project. So it was a really nice way to give back after they had endured the construction for a while.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Andrea Arnold, city manager, city of Decatur, hanging out with us here for the for our bit of a postmortem when it comes to Decatur Watch Fest and the impact that the World Cup had on the city of Decatur. Do you have favorite moments from Watch Fest in your hip pocket from what you got to experience?
That's a great question. I mean, I still go back to the first night when Big Boy walked out onto the stage, and I'm just standing there thinking, "Is this really happening in Decatur?" And then I had a moment of, "Oh my gosh, how are we going to do this for 34 days?" And then just at the very end, the last concert. After the final match and then having the final concert with the Indigo Girls from Decatur. I mean, that was kind of an emotional moment of seeing it all come to a close and just looking out over the sea of people and just seeing people coming together for the love of sport, the love of music, the love of community. And, it was pretty overwhelming to see, just people coming together and clearly needing that time together.
So, who did you get to introduce? Which bands did you get to introduce?
So, um, I don't know that I introduced any band. We had city commissioners that were up on stage. Our mayor got to introduce some of the bands. So hopefully, I think for our city commissioners, those were some highlights of introducing bands, getting to meet the band members. Everyone just seemed so happy to be on the stage. Actually, just everyone seemed happy in general to be at the event.
What did the city think the largest challenge of hosting Watch Fest was going to be going in? And I'm going to pause my question right there.
I think the greatest concern from the very beginning was, were we going to have, literally, did we have enough bodies to devote to the event? And just knowing that, Atlanta was going to, they were going to need extra security. So were they going to be pulling our police officers or firefighters, into their event? And so we really were worried about being stretched thin.
So then, having that concern going in, obviously being nimble as a part of all of this process, uh, I imagine that the city handled it fairly well when it came to everything, because I heard zero concerns from anyone who attended anything. So I guess my question on the follow up is, concerns going in addressed all the way through, and you came through with flying colors.
Absolutely. So, we were fine in terms of staffing, but part of that also has to do, we have to give credit to DeKalb County, to their police department for showing up and offering, some of their resources. And, they, offered additional police officers, but also some of their special units. And then MARTA as well. Kudos to MARTA for this whole event. But again, they're just, remember, their work wasn't isolated to just their stations in the city of Atlanta. They also were on site here in Decatur, and they had security personnel on site. So in addition to the city's police department, and also our first responders with the fire department, we had assistance from DeKalb County and from MARTA Police, because that was our number one priority, was making sure that this would be a safe event. And we made it through the event, with no troubles.
Did you trade feedback with the city of Atlanta or any other municipality that was doing these kinds of things? Were you comparing notes as you were going along? Were you having those constant conversations as things were happening?
Yes, and so there were, in terms of Zoom meetings, that was some of the Zoom meetings that we had as well, with the representatives from the host committee, City of Atlanta, as well as DeKalb County and the other cities in the county. So we can make sure that we had a coordinated effort, because we knew that some of the other cities in DeKalb had, they had some events going on, but nothing at the scale of Decatur Watch Fest.
What do you get? So now that you're back in the office, how many people are sitting there and getting their postures like this, and they're kind of sitting there and they're cracking their knuckles and they're waiting for a moment to sit there and go, okay, so what are you doing next? What's the what's the
If one more person asked me that question, well, right now there's always the Women's World Cup next year.
You're under
Um,
about 330 days away from that.
that's right. So I've told some people that this was just practice for the Women's World Cup.
I mean, it's this was something that took years, and now that you've got the rhythm down, that the city is confident that it can do things of this depth and of this import. I mean, obviously, it's got to be an incredibly satisfying feeling to the city. That's like, man, we really pulled this off, and this came out probably a lot better than maybe you had anticipated going in. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, we're the only city in the country that activated for 34 days. And I mean, this is a city of 25,000 people, just around 5 square miles. This is not a metropolis. We did not have federal funding, like the host cities, for the security, for the logistics. We did this ourselves, and we're extremely proud of what we were able to pull off. But a lot of it had to do with the fact that we relied on other agencies. We had a team of volunteers, not just the volunteers that planned the event, but then the volunteers that showed up every day, just to support the event. And so, it was, pretty remarkable what we were able to pull off.
Because if anybody was wandering in and around the courthouse and the area near Watchfest, there were those large signs that were near the entry point that had the list of sponsors that the city of Decatur had partnered with to make sure that this was going to be as self-sufficient as possible. And it was a long list of folks. I mean, it was a sign that had a lot of logos on it. So to have that kind of interest and interaction and combining of ideas, that's got to be really it's got to be satisfying to sit there and go that, yeah, we could do something that is as self-sufficient as this was.
Right, and we could not have done this without the sponsors. And of course, we're also limited in terms of this of not being the host city. We were limited in who could be a sponsor, and so and I think I mean, if you had to be a FIFA sponsor, or you couldn't be in a competitive category, and so we found ourselves limited at times in terms of there were other entities that really wanted to help out. They wanted to participate, but they were excluded because of the FIFA rules. And we were obviously respectful and deferential to FIFA through this whole process.
And so, what did you do did you literally shut your phone off and put it off to the side and have the out of office memo? It's like last week, y'all don't touch me. I'm not going anywhere close. Did you actually shut everything down?
So I took a couple of days last week. We'll leave it at that.
Because I mean, literally, after 34 straight days, we can relate because we were, every day that the tournament was going on. So we understand where you were coming from. But yeah, it's just I can't, and those of us here, we can't look at what you were able to pull off in the city of Decatur for a town that is the size of Decatur, to do something as consecutively as you did, to have all of the elements that were attached to it and all of the different things that you were able to do when you came to town, whether it was the music or the matches or anything like that. No, it was a bang up job. And the boss actually had a question. The boss. She was wondering what happened to all of the nation's flags that had the Atlanta United logos on them. Did they just disappear? Did they go back to Atlanta United? What happened to those? Any clue?
I don't know, but I'll find out. I assume they went with Atlanta United, but
We will find it. But yeah, if you could
yeah.
find, the boss was like, oh, if they've got like the Cabo Verde flag with Atlanta United, that would be great. We'd put it in the office and those kinds. So you see how her priorities are with this kind of stuff. I can't thank you enough for doing this and hopping on, especially now that you're back to tackling everything, the normal things that are going on during the day.
Back to the day job
in a city government. Anytime anything is going on, obviously, you know that you've got an open door with us here, and you can knock on our door and sit there and go, hey, this might be something that we could catch up on. So anytime you want to come and visit, that'd be great to catch up. But fantastic bang up job that you did. Let me see if I can get it right. Right there. There it is. The city. There's the Decatur Watch Fest.
That's it. Love it.
Yeah, the Watch Fest. The Watch Fest scarf is definitely here, part of the
Love it.
office. Can't thank you enough, Andrea, for doing this. And do you need a note to get back into class, or are you going to be okay?
I'm good. Thanks, John.
All right. Good. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. There's Andrea Arnold. She's the city manager of City of Decatur. We had her on draw day, and it was great to catch up with her down at Benchwarmers. And thanks to Kim Spees and Jen Johns and everybody that has been making sure that we were able to kind of keep up with everything going on with Watchfest as we go. But yeah, great stuff with the city of Decatur and what they were able to do with Watchfest, and very, very cool stuff there as well. So that was Andrea Arnold, the city manager, city of Decatur. I didn't realize that they'd had over 170,000 folks